بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله، اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، وعلنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا وجيها عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا ووجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. يا وصيا حسني والخلفا حجا، أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. حاجات. يا سادتي وموالي، إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله، وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله، فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله، فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله، وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله، فكونوا عند الله رجائي. يا سادتي يا أولياء الله، صلى الله عليهم أجمعين، ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين، آمين رب العالمين.
أفضل السلام محمد وآل محمد. before we begin, Kushni Rahmatul Alameen, Ya Sayyidi Ya Muhammad, Ya Habibullah, Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Also, Kushni the Imam Sahibul Amr, Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli. One special request, so Surah Fatiha, Shifai Kulli Mariz. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim ghayr maghdubi alayhim. Allah. I'll take a few minutes for you. The first short qasida is about us. It's like a munajat, it's like a dua. And then we want to recite, or I'd like to present something on the fazilat, or the importance of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala रूख मुनव्वर दिखा दो मदीने वाले रूख मुनव्वर दिखा दो आसी को जलवा दिखा दो मदीने वाले रूख मुनव्वर दिखा दो किश्ती बवर में जिनकी भी आई मेरे ही मौला पार लगा दी लाखों की बिगड़ी तूने बना दी मेरी भी बिगड़ी बना दो मदीने वाले मेरी भी बिगड़ी बना दो मदीने वाले रूखे मुनव्वर दिखा दो कैसे कटेगी राह मुश्किल सख्त है तूफान दूर है साहिल रात अंधेरी दूर है मंजिल भटके को राह दिखा दो मदीने वाले भटके को राह दिखा दो मदीने वाले रूखे मुनव्वर दिखा दो लम्हा फुरकत एक गिरा है अहवाले आशिक तुम पे आया है कलमा तुम्हारा विरदे ज़ुबा है रुख से निकाब उठा लो मदीने वाले रूखे मुनव्वर दिखा दो रुख is towards and Medina is we want to go to Ziyarah inshallah रूखे मुनव्वर दिखा दो मदीने वाले obviously the most important मदीने वाले is our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, in Gujarati I just say कि आपरे જ્યારે કોઈનો ehsan માનો હોય તો how much we feel. I'll just give an example to my children. Okay, it's a hot day and you're walking down the garden and somebody you know, somebody says, okay, there's 1 dirham, go and buy a lollipop, and you know, that person when we meet again, we'll all say hello, won't we? We'll just say, acknowledge him. We'll say, hello, how are you? You know, you will never forget him. Now, the Prophet has gone through tribulations, I tell you, trials. I tell you, if the Prophet hadn't gone through what he went through, I don't think we would have received this deen of Muhammad. They call it deen of Muhammad, it's deen of Allah. So, do you know the things he has gone through? Intestines of animals thrown on him, thorns on his way, social boycotting him, and you name it, he was there for all the blame was towards him. He was the one who was a thorn in their flesh. And in spite of that, he survived. And he brought us La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, I was told by my teachers that when you recite Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, this angel on the right doesn't know how many ketlas of infinite, just to recite of us. He can't even count the amount of benefits or sawab we have. So today's qasida is about, Assalamu alaikum, salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. So I want you to all take part in this qasida. Salli ala Muhammad, salli ala Nabina, salli ala Muhammadin, salli ala Shafina, salli ala. Salli ala Nabina, salli ala Muhammadin, salli ala Nabina, salli ala Muhammadin, salli ala Habibina, salli ala. پیارا ہے نام مصطفیٰ ہر رنج و غم کی ہے دوا پیارا ہے نام مصطفیٰ ہر رنج و غم کی ہے دوا ہر رنج و غم کی ہے دوا جنت کے در my voice is the door. جنت کے در پہ ہے لکھا جنت کے در پہ ہے لکھا کیا لکھا صلی علی محمد صلی علی محمد صلی علی حبیبنا صلی علی محمد صلی علی حبیبنا بخشی گئی ترک اولا توبہ کا در بھی کھل گیا یہ تو کہ بات نبی آدم بخشی گئی ترک اولا توبہ کا در بھی کھل گیا توبہ کا در بھی کھل گیا آدم نے جب کہ یہ کہا آدم نے جب کہ یہ کہا کیا کہا صلی علی محمد صلی علی حبیب صلی علی حبیبنا صلی علی محمد صلی علی شفینا صلی Okay, one last. اے بارگاہ اکبری یہی دعا ہے آخری اے بارگاہ اکبری یہی دعا ہے آخری یہی دعا ہے آخری آخر میں your last breaths in this world آخر میں لب پہ ہو یہی آخر میں لب پہ ہو یہی صلی علی محمد صلی علی حبیبنا صلی علی محمد صلی علی شفینا صلی علی محمد الہی و بیمار داشتے بلا جو بیمار ہو جلد پائے شفا الہی برائے امام زمان ہمیں حول محشر سے دے تو قیامت میں موجود رہو بالی اٹھے صلوا على محمد وآله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Mu'mineen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Congratulations and felicitations to the Imam of our time and all mu'mineen on the occasion of the birth of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Today we also celebrate the Wiladat of our sixth holy Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. There's a request for Surah Fatiha for Marhum Muhammad Rafiq Ja'fari Lidatu, Marhum Mehrun Nisa Datu, the Marhumin of those who have provided tabarruk for this evening's program, and Kul Marhumin Al-Fatiha. Bismillah. Mu'mineen, please join me in reciting 5 times Amma Yujibul Muhtar for Shifai Marid. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma Yujibul Muhtar idha da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma Yujibul Muhtar idha da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma Yujibul Muhtar idha da'a wa yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء صلوات. The Bab al-Ridha course. This year the Bab al-Ridha team is proud to be launching their 11th annual Bab al-Ridha intensive short course in the holy city of Qum. This 3-week course organized by students of the Hawza is open to gents and ladies aged between 18 to 35 years and aims to equip participants with essential Islamic knowledge and ideology together with practical skills in a Hawza-style environment. With intellectually challenging and interactive sessions, field trips, ziyarah, and fun activities, the course is designed to provide a life-changing experience. The course will be running from the 16th of December 2023 to the 7th of January 2024. The deadline to apply is only a few days away on the 9th of October, so register now to secure your place and avoid missing out on this wonderful opportunity. For more information about the course and how to apply, please visit the website BRISC, that's brisk.babalridha.com, or see the poster for further details. We are absolutely delighted to be hosting Shaykh Mahdi Rastani for the Majlis this evening. Shaykh Mahdi Rastani was born and raised in the US. After finishing high school, he joined the Islamic Seminary of Qum and completed 6 years of introductory and intermediate studies devoted to building an understanding of Islamic sciences such as Arabic syntax, grammar, logic, Islamic theology, ahkam, history, fiqh, and usul al-fiqh. He then continued his studies for another 3 years under the supervision of scholars such as Ayatollah Sayyid Hashimi Shahrudi, studying various important Islamic texts. He then attended advanced classes on jurisprudence taught by His Eminence Ayatollah Hashimi Shahrudi. Shaykh Mahdi has made many trips throughout the United States and Europe, delivering lectures based on the Shia school of thought in English, Farsi, and Arabic. We are delighted, Shaykh, that you have accepted our invitation on this wonderful occasion. Please can you all join me in welcoming Shaykh with 3 salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
In honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi
Before we begin, inshallah, if we can take a moment to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all of your marhumin and marhumat with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقل لعبادي يقولوا التي هي أحسن إن الشيطان ينزغ بينهم إن الشيطان كان للإنسان عدوا مبينا ربكم أعلم بكم إن يشأ يرحمكم أو إن يشأ يعذبكم وما أرسلناك عليهم وكيلا صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, a second loud salawat. اللهم صل على محمد. For the hastening in the return of our beloved 12th Imam, a third final loud salawat. Allow me to begin tonight's talk by first and foremost congratulating all of our dear brothers and sisters on these auspicious events, two very special births for us, the birth of our Holy Prophet as well as our beloved sixth Imam, Al-Imam as-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhima. Secondly, I'm very happy and honored to be here with the community, and inshallah, I hope that what is said tonight on the minbar is of benefit to our audience and to the speaker himself first and foremost. The topic that we'll be discussing tonight, inshallah, is the topic that I have titled, Don't Judge Me, a topic with regards to the concept of judgment within our communities. Let us begin our discussion from here. The reality is the idea of being judged is a fundamental pillar of our faith. Out of the three pillars that make someone a Muslim, without any one of these three, this individual cannot refer to himself as a Muslim. You will find the belief in the Day of Judgment. And this is a belief that not only us Muslims hold, in fact you find in the Jewish faith there is a similar idea, in the Christian faith there is a similar idea, as well as maybe many other divine ideologies or other faiths. The idea that the human being is given a particular lifetime and that he has the opportunity to choose between good or evil. But at the end of the day, he's going to be held accountable to his deeds, and his actions are going to be displayed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to tell him whether he lived up to the standards or not. This is the concept of judgment. And of course, within Islam, the Quran talks about the Day of Judgment so often that you practically cannot go through a couple pages of the Quran other than coming across the concept of judgment in the Quran. Every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the final destination that you and I are headed towards, this Day of Judgment, the different titles that the Quran uses, every time you will find the concept of judgment is built into these names. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to that day as Yawmul Qiyamah, the day where everyone stands. What does it mean that everyone is standing? It means that everyone is going to be standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be held accountable and to be judged. Sometimes the Quran refers to that day as Yawmul Fasl, the day where good and bad are separated from one another. Again, denoting the idea of judgment. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to that day as Yawmul Hisab, the day where accounting is going to take place. And therefore you find any of the many titles of the Day of Judgment that you look at, the concept of judgment is always built into these titles. This is all nice and wonderful. There is no complexity as it relates to this portion of our discussion. The complexity around the issue of judgment starts to begin when the judge is no longer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is no longer one who is approaching the issue with mercy, with compassion, with kindness. It is no longer one who's approaching it with ultimate wisdom and knowledge like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does or has. Now the judgment is coming from a fellow human being. Now the judge is no longer Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. The judge is another human being with his limited knowledge, with his limited compassion, with his limited mercy. This is where the discussion starts to get a little bit complex. And this becomes a little bit of a problem. Many of us have found ourselves sometimes in situations or found others in situations where you and I might do something wrong. When someone comes to you and tells you about this wrong thing that you did, you might use the following phrase with them. You might say, listen, don't judge me. You don't know the situation that I was in. And sometimes when you use this phrase, what you mean is, you shouldn't think of what I did as something wrong. Sometimes what you are referring to is that they shouldn't speak to you from a moral high horse as if they never make mistakes themselves. It is only you have made a mistake and you've only ever broken your promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on and so forth. To add to the complexity of this topic, you see this issue within our communities. There are brothers and sisters who, myself, others might be a part of them, who have shortcomings. But then all of a sudden you see the community, or sometimes individuals within a community, will begin to judge this person so harshly that this person slowly feels like they have to isolate themselves more and more from the community. And psychologists talk a lot about the effects of shame and judgment in today's world. If someone is dealing with a problem and they feel like if they were to share about the problem, they would only be judged in a negative way, psychologists will tell you this person will struggle even more to overcome the difficulty and the struggle that they were dealing with, because now they have lost their support system. Now they have lost a community around them to be with them along this path. This is therefore one extreme we have in our communities. On the other hand, we have another extreme, and that is the extreme we see sometimes, especially within our younger generation, because this idea and concept is being pushed by the Western culture. And that other extreme is the following: no matter what this person does, he doesn't give anyone the permission to make any moral judgment as it relates to his deeds. There are Muslims who live life like this today. They will undermine some of the most important practices within Islam, and if you point to the action and the deed and you say what you're doing doesn't mesh with Islam, they say you are being very judgmental in your approach. You don't have the right to judge me. So this person doesn't pray. If you say it's important for you to pray and this is going to affect your relationship with God, he says, don't be judgmental. Be accepting. Be welcoming. This person doesn't observe dress code. If you were to tell him that the Ma'sumin wanted you to observe dress code, he or she will turn around and say, don't be judgmental. Be accepting. Therefore, you find two fundamental extremes within our communities. Where does Islam's opinion lie in between these two extremes is the topic that we will be delving into tonight, inshallah. And in order to do so, we'll pose the following questions. Number one, what does it mean when someone says, "Don't judge me"? What are the different interpretations of this? And in other words, what are the different forms of judgments that we have towards another person? Number two, where does Quran and Hadith make reference to the idea of judging others? And have we ever been given permission to judge the deeds or the character of another individual? Number three, are we allowed to scorn and scold people for their mistakes? And what did the Ahlul Bayt teach us about a person who scorns or scolds other people because of the previous mistakes that they have made? Number four, if Islam promotes an environment that is judgment-free, does that mean in turn that Islam wants you and I to speak about our shortcomings and our mistakes and our sins openly and freely? Because the idea is that no one should judge me, therefore I should feel comfortable to speak about my shortcomings, my sins, and my mistakes. And number five, and finally, what conversation took place between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His great prophet, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, in which Musa alayhi salam spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and complained of others judging him, and what answer and response did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala present to this great prophet of his? Tonight, inshallah, we'll delve into these 5 questions with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Let's begin from here. When someone says, "Don't judge me," first and foremost, we have to understand what is it that this person is even referring to. We live in a world today where these small, short icons or logos or slogans, you can say, these one-liners are used all the time. Half the time people use these one-liners, they don't really know what's meant behind this one line. So you'll find people, they'll support an idea, they'll support a slogan, they'll support a hashtag. But if you ask them, what exactly is this hashtag saying? What interpretation of this do you understand? You will find going from one person to another person, they have completely different understandings of what this hashtag is supposed to stand for. What is it exactly that they are supporting? So you'll see people, they'll say, yes, we have to live in the moment, yes? So what does it mean, live in the moment? Living in the moment, if it means that you're not going to learn from the mistakes of your past, you're not going to plan for the future, well, Islam completely disagrees with you. Yes? If your interpretation of living in the moment is that though you plan for the future, but you have some worries, you don't allow those worries and concerns to consume this present moment, Islam would completely agree with you. Depending on the interpretation, maybe Islam completely agrees with you, maybe Islam completely disagrees with you. It all depends. It's not that simple. Sometimes people will say, yes, never change for anybody else. Be who you are. Okay, so never change. What do you mean? Does that mean you're going to hold on to your foundational values? You're never going to change those for anybody else? If this is the case, Islam 100% is on your side and agrees with you. But if what you mean is you're going to come home and you're going to throw your socks in the corner, and then when your wife says, please, this is the house, yes, you have to keep it clean, you're going to say, no, I told everyone I'm never going to change for anybody. Well, this is recipe for disaster and recipe for problems that we see in marriages. Depending on your interpretation, either Islam can completely agree with you or Islam can completely disagree with you. But this is the world we live in. It's a world where you don't take the time to explain what you mean. You know, there's some social media apps, if you try to explain what you mean, they'll limit you. They'll say, listen, you have 50 characters, 70 characters, whatever the case is, get the thought across. If you go beyond this, we don't have time for it, yes? Maybe you have to buy a subscription or something like that. Otherwise, you can't go beyond this. This is the world that we live in. Therefore, when someone says, don't judge me, what exactly do they mean by this? There are 3 interpretations that generally we can understand from a statement like this. The first of these interpretations, the first form of judgment, depending on the interpretation, Islam might completely agree or completely disagree with us. The first of those interpretations, sometimes when someone says, don't judge me, what they mean is, you have no right to pass any moral judgment on what I did. If I stole money from someone, you don't have the right to pass judgment, yes? If I betrayed the trust of another person, you can't pass judgment on this. If I'm Muslim and I know I'm supposed to pray, but I don't pray, you don't have the right to pass judgment. You can't say what I'm doing is good or bad. No moral judgment, you don't have the right to pass on it. If I don't fast in the month of Ramadan, yes, when I'm supposed to be fasting, yes, I don't have any excuse or anything like that. I know I'm supposed to be, I don't fast. You can't say what I'm doing is wrong. You can't say what I'm doing doesn't mesh with Islam. The first interpretation is you don't have any right to any form of moral judgment of my deeds. This is the first of those interpretations. The second of those interpretations is what? Is that, listen, you can judge my deed, but you don't have permission to take some of my shortcomings and sins and because of that dismiss my character as a whole. This is a different one, yes? The first one was the judgment of deeds. The second one is what? The judgment on the character of this individual. What does that mean? You can pass judgment that not praying, for example, is a bad thing. But you can't sit there and say, because I don't pray, now I have no value in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there's no way for me to ever make it into heaven because I committed this sin. Now God doesn't care about me anymore. Now I don't have a place in the community anymore, and so on and so forth. This is interpretation number 2. Interpretation number 3, this person says, regardless of whether you pass judgment on me or not, when I say don't judge me, I mean don't speak to me with a judgmental tone. Don't speak to me as if I'm the only one who's ever made a mistake. And you're perfect, and you have no shortcomings. And mashallah, you walk on the clouds. This is the third interpretation. Depending on the interpretation, we have to see, does Islam agree? Does Islam disagree? Some of these Islam is a big proponent of. Some of these Islam has a major issue with. And therefore, in order to get into each of these and see which Islam agrees with, which Islam disagrees with. Allah salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad wa ajil. As we go through these three, the first and most important point we have to pay attention to is that if we ever say Islam has allowed you to pass judgment in this scenario, or we say Islam has not allowed you to pass judgment in that scenario, the fundamental principle to hold on to is this. This is the one line I want you to remember. You can only pass judgment on an issue when God has already passed judgment on that issue. You are never the judge. Even when Islam says you can pass judgment in a particular situation, technically you're not the judge. Technically, God has already passed judgment on this issue. You're just conveying the message. Otherwise, you're never in a position to pass judgment on anything. This is the principle. Hold on to it. Let's go to the first one. This person says, I pray, I don't pray. It shouldn't make any difference for you. I fast, I don't fast, shouldn't make any difference for you. God forbid, part of haram relationships, not haram relationships, it shouldn't make any difference for you. You have no right to pass any moral judgment on any of my deeds. This first form of interpretation. Does Islam agree with this or does Islam disagree with this? Islam 110% disagrees with this. Meaning what? Meaning in Islam, it is impossible not to pass judgment on deeds. On the deeds themselves. Character, we're going to get to. That's a separate discussion, yes? On the deeds, it's impossible. You say, how is that impossible? Because in Islam, if you look at the religion itself is made up of hundreds of moral judgments. That's what the fabric of the religion even is. In reality, you and I already passed judgment on hundreds of deeds as good deeds. You and I already passed judgment on hundreds of deeds as bad deeds the moment you embrace this faith. The moment you said, whatever the Prophet says, I'm going to agree with him. Whatever he says, I believe in him. That's the moment you already passed judgment on hundreds of deeds as good and moral, and hundreds of deeds as what? Bad and immoral. Because the moment you embrace this faith and said you believe in this messenger, then if the messenger came and said, if you don't pray, that's a bad thing, you already passed that moral judgment. Whether you like to admit it or you don't like to admit it. Whether you're sitting there and thinking to yourself, no, Shaykh, I'm not a judgmental person, or not, doesn't matter. The reality is, the moment you embrace this faith, you already made it a point that, for example, adultery is immoral. Now, whether you go up to someone and you tell them that or not is a separate discussion. That's the outward expression of it. But in reality, you already passed judgment on this. And in fact, Islam will not even remain. It cannot not even exist without a set of moral judgments. In many ways, that is what Islam even is. At least a big portion of it. That's the fabric of Islam. This is number one. Therefore, is it possible for me to not judge people in this area? No, it's not even possible for you. Because you're Muslim. The moment you said Muslim, that means adultery, bad. Drinking, bad. That means praying, very important. If someone doesn't do it, that's bad. Fasting, if someone doesn't do it, that all of this, of course, in the situation where the person doesn't have a valid reason, yes? And so on and so forth. Not only this, not only is it okay for you to pass this form of judgment, in reality, it is wajib for you to pass this form of judgment. Where you say, you know, the Maraja have a discussion on what it means to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. Yes, Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar. Yes, when it comes to Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, they have different levels in the discussion. The third level, the fourth level is not the same as the first level. When it comes to Amr bil Ma'ruf, Nahi Anil Munkar, they say before you get to those stages where now, for example, you have to actually stop this person from committing a sin, so on and so forth, there are lower levels of it. The lower level sometimes is approaching this person in a nice way and speaking to them. Believe it or not, there is a level lower than that. There is a level that comes even before that. What is this level? What else is there? How am I enjoining the good and forbidding the evil if I'm not even speaking to this person at all? Like, how does that even work? The most basic level that is wajib. Yani Ayatul Sistani has ihtiyat wajib on this. He says obligatory precaution, this is necessary for you to do. Is that whenever you come across someone doing something wrong, deep down in your heart, you have to consider that deed a bad deed. And you have to disassociate from that deed in your own heart. You're not a believer if you come across someone doing something wrong and you look at it and deep down you think, that's amazing, that's great. What a wonderful thing. The very first step you have to take for Amr bil Ma'ruf happens within yourself. You have to disassociate from that within yourself. Now, sometimes you have the opportunity to kindly and nicely, you have the relationship with that person, it's strong enough that you can approach them and tell them about certain issue. Sometimes the relationship is not there, so you leave that person, live their own life. Everyone gets to live their own life. They have free will, they make their own decisions, yes? But that's a next level. First level is this. So I ask you, when you want to say that deed is a bad deed, isn't the fundamental qualification of that is that you are passing moral judgment on that deed? How can you sit there and say this deed is bad when you haven't even passed moral judgment on it? You've passed moral judgment on it. And this, brothers and sisters, is becoming a problem in our communities, especially with our younger generation. Why? Because they're being taught within the Western community that deals with its own issues, by the way, that yes, we have to be fully accepting. We have to be welcoming. Don't ever say this is bad. Don't ever say this is wrong. Yes? Fully accepting. One time I was on social media, I saw this meme once, yes? The meme was what? The person had posted a post. He said, listen, even if Dajjal came himself with one eye and on his forehead it says kafir, which some narrations of ours, yes, points towards. He said there will still be some Muslims who are so worried about being judgmental, they will say, no, let's not judge about Dajjal, yes? We don't know who he is. Who are we to judge? What do we know? So on and so forth. This is one extreme that we are heading towards. Now, this person doesn't pray. You don't have the right to ever tell me what I'm doing is wrong. Well, where did you get this from? This is not Islam. Your deed is wrong. Okay, this is the first of the meanings of judgment. Let us move on to number 2. A loud salawat, please. Number 2, the second meaning of judgment is what? Judging the character of this person. So you look at the mistake that this person made, and because of this mistake, you take that and you judge their whole character by it. So this person doesn't pray. This person doesn't fast. This person lacks dress code. This person add whatever other shortcoming or mistake that you want to add. You take that and you say, you know what? Because of this, you'll never make it into heaven. Because of this, God doesn't care about you. Because of this, you have no value in the eyes of God. Because of this, fundamentally, you're an evil person. You're a terrible person. This, yes? Do we have permission to pass judgment like this on individuals? The answer is this one, unlike the first one, Islam completely disagrees with it. Meaning what? Meaning you and I do not have the right and permission at all to pass judgment on the whole character of an individual. Yes, there's one exception to this. And when I go through the exception, you'll see, probably, maybe never in your life will you come across this. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But most people never come across this in their lives. When is it that Islam has allowed for you and I to pass judgment on the whole character of an individual? Extremely rare situation. When this person knew the truth about the faith and fundamentally rejected the faith. He knew that Islam in the heart, deep down in his heart, he knew Islam is what he has to follow. But out of arrogance, what did he do? He turned away from it. The Quran says what? The people of Fir'aun, yes, وَجَهَدُوا بِهَا. They turned away from it out of arrogance. وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا. But they knew for sure that this message is true. Yes, if you come across a person like that, the Quran has already passed judgment on this individual. The Quran has already said if you come across an individual like this and he dies in this state, this person will not enter heaven. The Quran is very clear about this. Where does the Quran say this? Surah number 8, verse 40, Surah Al-A'raf. The Quran says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا. Those who denied our signs, وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا عَنْهَا. And they did so out of what? Out of arrogance, not out of ignorance. Out of arrogance. I ask you, how often do you come across a person like this? It's very rare. Yes, maybe A'immatul Kufr, the heads of evil in this world, you can point to, they fall under this category, yes? Maybe from time to time, maybe a politician or something, yes? But the average person you come across, can you put them into this? You can't put them into this category, yes? Quran says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا. Denied our signs. وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا عَنْهَا. He did it out of kibr as well. What happened to this person? لَا تُفَتَّحُ لَهُمْ أَبْوَابُ السَّمَاءِ. The gates of the heaven will never open up to this person. And then the Quran uses an analogy that you also have in the Bible. The Bible uses this analogy as well. The Quran says, you know, this person will only ever make it into heaven if this impossible thing happens. In other words, he'll never make it into heaven, yes? This is what the Quran is saying. So the Quran says, وَلَا يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةِ. And they will never enter into heaven. Unless what happens? حَتَّى يَلِجَ الْجَمَلُ فِي سَمِّ الْخِيَاطِ. Unless you can get the camel, yes, to pass through the thread of a needle and the eye of a needle. If you can make that happen, this guy will also what? He'll also make it into heaven. In other words, impossible, not happening. This person, you can pass judgment on his character if he dies in this state, even while he's alive. Technically, you don't know. Technically, his life might continue. He might change. So even this person, while he's alive, you can't pass judgment on him. This rare situation you come across, even that you can't pass judgment on his character. You have to wait until he leaves this world. That's why the Quran says Ibrahim, when it came to his uncle, the Quran says Abi, but we believe that this Abi refers to his uncle for multiple reasons. It says he used to do istighfar for his uncle. فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ. When it became clear to him that he is aduwwun lillah, that he died in a state of disbelief, then Ibrahim drew the line there and he said, enough is enough. While he was alive, there was a chance for him to what? To change things. Now he's already passed away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala passes judgment on this individual. Outside of this, do you and I have the right to point to someone and say, yeah, you're right, write them off, yes? Oh, you're a done deal, this, that. You and I don't have this right. This is the second meaning of judgment. Aloud salawat, please. The third meaning of judgment This person says, listen, my issue is not you passing moral judgment on me. Just don't speak to me in a judgmental way. Are we allowed in Islam, if someone has done something that is a sin, are we allowed to scorn this person? Are we allowed to scold this person? Are we allowed to sit there and yell at this person? Sometimes people do wrong things. Other people around them turn around to, how dare you? How could you? What were you thinking? What is this? Are we allowed to do this? This third meaning of judgment, again, Islam has not given us permission to do so. And hence you come across this beautiful narration from our beloved Prophet, Muhammadin al-Mustafa, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. He said, Man ayyara mu'minan. The term ta'yir is a term you find in multiple narrations, yes? Ta'yir mean what? Scolding someone, scorning someone for a mistake that they've made, especially if they're already regretting it, especially if they know it's wrong, especially if they say, listen, that was my past. Can we move on? He said, Man ayyara mu'minan. Whoever scolds another believer, bidhambin, because of a sin that he has done, lam yamut. He will not die until he commits the same sin himself. And in some narrations it says that sin or a sin worse than that sin. Ta'yir, scolding people for their past mistakes, is a scary thing. Yes, you can sit down with someone and let them know that what they did was wrong. If you have a close relationship with them, not only can you do that, you have to do that. If your relationship can bear that. Yes? If your relationship can what? I want you to repeat this, can bear that. Don't go up to some random person, oh brother, come here, let me tell you what you did wrong. I saw you were praying, come here, come here. You had 54 mistakes in your salat. Please correct these 54 next time you come to the masjid. Do you have a relationship with this guy? Do you know him? Is he your best friend? No problem, is he your best friend? Go tell your best friend, no problem. Then your best friend will turn around and be like, yeah, I know I have this issue. You also have 50 issues as well. So I'll come to the masjid next time, I'll fix these. You fix those issues. Everyone walks home happy. Yes, no problem. But this person who doesn't have a relationship with you, you go up to him and you put yourself in a situation as if you and I, God forbid, are like, the scholars and the ma'sumin, who when they spoke, everyone would just sam'an wa ta'atan, yes? Everyone would just listen. I told him what he did was wrong. He didn't listen to me. Well, who are you? Your relationship with this person is not anywhere close. Yes, your husband, your wife, your child, someone near and dear to your heart, absolutely. Should you have those hard conversations with them? Absolutely. God expects it of you because your relationship can what? Can bear this. But the one whose relationship can't bear this, it doesn't help. Many times it makes things even worse. Yes, this is part of the conditions of Amr bil Ma'ruf, yes? So this third meaning, can I sit there and look at another person and say, this person God doesn't care about? That is why in the narrations we read that the sixth Imam said, Al-Imam as-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Shaykh as-Sadiq has narrated this in his book Al-Khisal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless his soul. He says that a believer never comes across another person except that his default mindset is that this person is better than me. So then the question that comes to mind is the question I always had reading these hadith in high school and younger ages, always thinking about this question. That, well, what if he's doing wrong things? What if I know, for example, I pray, he doesn't pray? What if I know, for example, I fast, he doesn't fast? What if I know he has bad akhlaq? What if I know this? What if I know that? So then what did the Imam say? Yes? The Imam said, and if I'm not mistaken, the narration is from the beloved Prophet. Aloud salawat, please. The Prophet said what? The Prophet said, when you're in that situation where you see this person is doing something wrong, he said, فَلْيَقُلْ, he should say this to himself, that, oh Allah, maybe the good parts of his character are hidden. And the bad parts of his character is what I'm seeing right now. You don't know. this guy who maybe, for example, doesn't fast. Is God happy with him not fasting? No, absolutely not. You can pass judgment on the deed, no problem. You have to. But how do you know the sacrifices this person might have made for tens of other people? You don't know this. He said when you come across this person, you should say what? Oh Allah, maybe his bad side is showing right now. And maybe his good side is hidden. While my good side is apparent, and my bad side is what? It is hidden, yes? Therefore, this third form of judgment, Islam has not given you and I permission at all. That is why the verse of the Quran that we started out with at the very beginning, what did it say? It said, وَقُلْ لِعِبَادِي, go and tell my servants, يَقُولُ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, when they speak to someone else, tell them to pick and choose the best possible way to communicate. Why the best possible way? Why not just a good way? إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنْزَغُ بَيْنَهُم, because shaitan's not going to just sit there idle. If you use a word that can be understood in a good way or a bad way, guess what shaitan is going to do? He's going to go whisper in his ears that, you know what he meant? He meant the other one, not this one. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنْزَغُ بَيْنَهُم إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ كَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوًّا مُبِينًا. He's after you guys. And then the Quran said, رَبُّكُمْ أَعْلَمُ بِكُمْ. Surah Isra. رَبُّكُمْ أَعْلَمُ بِكُمْ. Your Lord knows you better. إِن يَشَأْ يَرْحَمْكُمْ. If He wants to show mercy to you, He will do so. أَوْ إِن يَشَأْ يُعَذِّبْكُمْ. Or if He wants to hold you accountable for the sins that you've done. Technically, He can do that. He has that right. Yes? يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ عَلَيْهِمْ وَكِيلًا. We didn't make you in charge of everybody. People have their own rights. People have their free will. Yes, if your relationship with them works, you have to tell them, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, this guy wants to listen, he doesn't want to listen, whatever he wants to do, that's up to him. He has free will. God's not going to come ask you and I about what other people did. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ عَلَيْهِمْ وَكِيلًا. Therefore, this judgment is not allowed in Islam. Now, if someone comes around and says, wonderful Shaykh, I love this talk about no judgment, a judgment-free zone, yes? We should therefore be able to speak about our sins openly. I committed this sin, so I should be able to talk about it openly. Because no one's supposed to pass judgment on me, yeah? No one's supposed to say anything to my face. This also is what Islam doesn't want. Islam says if you see someone doing something wrong, you shouldn't pass judgment on their character. But Islam also says to that person who's doing that wrong thing, at least don't do it in public. Go hide it. Go do it in the corner of your house. Go do it somewhere else. Don't bring it out into the public. You should have a little bit of shame between yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, shame with other people is a separate discussion. Islam doesn't necessarily approve of that form of shame. You know what Islam does approve of? The shame between yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The haya between yourself and, have a little bit of haya. God's watching you. So now you're committing this mistake and you're saying it's too difficult for you to drop this habit. Okay, well at least don't do it in public. It's a judgment-free zone. No one should judge me. No one's supposed to judge you. But that same God who told everyone not to judge you also told you what? Not to speak openly of your mistakes and of your sins, yes? But the reality is, judgment, brothers and sisters, is something all of us are going to deal with at one point or another. At one point or another, we're all going to feel judged in our lives. What do I do when I feel judged in my life? This is the last points that inshallah we're going to make tonight. 2 points for one to keep in mind. Number one, if you feel judged, sometimes that is because you're opening up to people too much. We live in a world of social media today. People put everything out there for everyone to see. Well, people don't have the capacity to digest why you do the things you do. What's your intention? What are you trying to get out of it? So what do people, they assume things about you. And you're naive enough to sit there and say, no, they shouldn't judge. Yes, he shouldn't judge. But shouldn't you be smart enough not to do this? To protect yourself a little bit. This is number one. Number two, if I feel judged in my life, we have to remember that this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are many who will judge any one of us in any particular situation. I wear this clothing. I probably get judged every single day, yes? Because there are people, they come, they see this person wearing this clothing. Maybe they've had negative reactions in the past, negative experiences in the past, this, that. They say, yeah, he's like this, he's like that. They make judgments. And you too, in your own way, you might be in a situation where other people make judgments. All of us, at one point or another, will be judged by the people around us. This is one of the tests of life, yes? And it was a test that even Musa alayhi salam was tested with in his own way. So the conversation says, and this is from Bihar al-Anwar, that Musa alayhi salam one day spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of the many munajats that Musa had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, Ya Allah, I need to ask you a favor. This is, of course, my paraphrasing. I have a haja, I have a request that I need to ask you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to him, yes, Musa, what is it? He said, Ya Allah, my problem is I have done so much for these people, but they still speak negatively of me. They criticize me, they assume terrible things about me, yes? When I'm not around, they say this, they say that, they say this Musa, he came to grab power, he came to do this, he came to do that. They judge my intentions, so on and so forth. Ya Allah, do something so that they only speak well about me. What was the response that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him? The response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the following. He said, Musa, I will not do for you what I have not done for myself. He said, Musa, I will not do for you what I have not done for myself. I am God, and people still speak negatively of me, yes? And people still judge my intentions, people still criticize me, yes? Isn't this true? The moment our dua isn't given exactly how we wanted, now we start to judge him, yes? Oh, he never cared about me anyways. He never heard my dua anyways. He left me to myself anyways. Everyone else is getting their haja, they're walking away anyways. How come I don't have this? How come I don't have... The narration said, Musa, I will not do for you what I haven't done for myself. And then he turned to Musa, he said, Musa, wouldn't you love to walk in my footsteps and do ta'assi to me? Wouldn't it be better for you to be the way that I am? That this test, I put it in front of you, and that you are pleased with what I have decided for you. And Musa said, Ya Allah, I would rather do ta'assi to you. And I understand that this is the test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when we go through the tests of life, the difficulties of life, people say things about us, people judge us, so on and so forth, that He gives us the ability to understand that this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshaAllah. Let's take a moment, inshaAllah, for a couple short du'as. First and foremost, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the shafa'ah of our beloved Prophet and our sixth Imam on the Day of Judgment, inshaAllah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of those who have worked hard to make this majalis possible, this gathering possible, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless their lives, inshaAllah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that all of those who have hajat, they have requests, there are things that they need, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them their hajat and their requests, inshaAllah. And finally, last but not least, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He hastens the return of our beloved 12th Imam bin Nabi wa alih. Rahimallahu man qara'a surat al-Fatihata ma'a as-salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
बर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलवात। जो इश्क़ मोहम्मद का
طلبگار نہیں ہے جو عشق محمد کا طلبگار نہیں ہے جو عشق محمد کا طلبگار نہیں ہے ہرگز وہ بشر صاحب کردار نہیں ہے جو عشق محمد کا طلبگار نہیں ہے سودا ہے دلوں کا یہاں چہرے نہ سوارو سودا ہے دلوں کا یہاں چہرے نہ سوارو یہ شہر نبی مصر کا بازار نہیں ہے یہ شہر نبی مصر کا بازار نہیں ہے جو عشق محمد کا طلبگار نہیں ہے ہم کو تو قیامت میں بچا لیں گے محمد ارے ہم کو تو قیامت میں بچا لیں گے محمد وہ لوگ ڈرے جن کا مددگار نہیں ہے وہ لوگ ڈرے جن کا مددگار نہیں ہے ہم کو تو قیامت میں بچا لیں گے محمد وہ لوگ ڈرے جن کا مددگار نہیں ہے جو عشق محمد کا طلبگار نہیں ہے جو آل محمد سے محبت نہیں کرتا جو آل محمد سے محبت نہیں کرتا وہ شخص ارے وہ شخص محمد کا وفادار نہیں ہے، وہ شخص محمد کا وفادار نہیں ہے، جو عشق محمد کا طلبگار نہیں ہے۔ آخری مصرے پہ ذرا غور فرمائے گا۔ رسول اللہ نے کہا تھا کہ حسین مجھ سے ہے اور میں حسین سے ہوں، ٹھیک ہے؟ اب ساتھ دیتے رہنا۔ جو عشق محمد کا طلبگار نہیں ہے، خوش اس سے رسول دو سرا ہو نہیں سکتے، ارے خوش اس سے رسول دو سرا ہو نہیں سکتے، جو ان کے نواسے کا عزادار نہیں ہے، ارے جو ان کے نواسے کا عزادار نہیں ہے، جو عشق محمد کا طلبگار نہیں ہے۔ پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔
Mu'mineen, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, Khushali Mubarak, congratulations to all of the Mu'mineen and to the Imam of our time on this blessed occasion of Miladun Nabi, the birth of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And the Wiladat of our sixth beloved Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. On behalf of Wessex Jamaat, I'd like to convey our deep appreciation and gratitude to Shaykh Mahdi for honouring us this evening with a wonderful majlis, which we can all inshallah benefit from and take great lessons from. So thank you very much for giving us this honour this evening, Shaykh. Can I ask all the mu'mineen to join me in thanking Shaykh with the recitation of 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you also to Gulzar uncle for bringing Shaykh and for Uncle Muhammad Raza for his recitation this evening as well, in which we heard about the fadila of salawat. So on that note, can I request one loud final salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can I please ask Mu'mineen to stand for recitation of ziyarah?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وسيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريتك، علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن. عجل الله فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرزك الطوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.